Instead of today's agricultural fact of the day, let me share with you the egg I just got. This egg is literally minutes freshly laid. The chicken that laid this I will show in a second, and the mama that laid this was out of our hatching project that the FFA conducted last year. We got a big grant and it titled it Hatching the Future. That was our project. We got a bunch of incubators. My farm donated hatching eggs to set these incubators in classrooms all over the school. And over the course of the year, well, actually from February, mid-February through early June, we set incubators in 28 different spaces, and the eggs for my chickens filled every single one of them. Upon hatching those eggs out, the students in those classes, they had been educated. My ag leadership class did mini educational lessons to the kids in those classes and would make regular visits to help the classroom teachers. They would partner with them to help maintain the incubator and set up the brooding space, which we had, and we provided to those classrooms. They went out on loan, and then some classrooms actually kept the chicks after hatch for a week or sometimes even 2 weeks. Those students had the opportunity at the end of that time to take them home if they wanted to in exchange for a $2 donation to our FFA chapter, and this was a way for us to provide something valuable to the community. The rehoming fee was only $2 per chick, but they were straight run. So obviously people that lived in towns were kind of limited because there was no way for us to tell males from females. And if you live in the town that this school is in, roosters aren't really accepted. But it was a wonderful experience. We actually ended up rehoming 122 chicks to local families in the community. And the remaining birds at the end of the school year came home with me, kind of in exchange for all of the donations that we have made in eggs over the course of that year. I have a bunch of different egg-laying breeds at my house. Most of my flock has foundations with cream leg bar genetics or blue lace red Wyandotte genetics. So those are most of the pure breeds. I do have some other production breeds like production reds, or they're called red comets. The chicken that actually laid this egg, if you're not familiar with chickens and egg color genetics, this obviously is an olive color egg that came from a crossbreed of chicken that came out of my flock. So let me explain those genetics a little bit more to you. Now, I'm not going to give you a full-blown genetic lesson, but this color is created by mixing a blue egg layer and a brown egg layer, and it creates this olive shade that you see here. Now, the 3 standard size birds that are out of this hatching project that I mentioned from last year all lay pretty neat colored eggs. For those of you that do not know what a cream leg bar is, this one is actually a pure one that just happened to hatch out. She does lay beautiful blue eggs that I can show you before the end of this video, but this is the chicken that actually laid this olive egg. You can see she has a crest on the top of her head. Now, the crest comes from the crested cream leg bar, which is the official title of them. And knowing the flock makeup of my birds, I am guessing that the mother of this one was either a black copper Marans or a barred rock. And my final answer is going to be a black copper Marans, because if you look at her legs, she does have some faint feathering there, which is characteristic of a black copper Marans or Marans of any sort. Not all of them have that, but many of them do. So when you cross these breeds, you see traits expressed from both breeds that are involved in the cross. Let's use this girl over here, for example. Once again, you look at the top of her head, and you can see that she has the crest. So she is part cream leg bar. Judging by the colors that are expressed here, I believe that the other part of this cross would be a production red style of breed. Knowing the breeds that I had in my flock, that would be the most reasonable guess, is that she is a production red hen crossed with a cream leg bar rooster. Now, these other birds that are in here that seem to appear that they have stuck their beak in an electrical socket are silkies. They are not very productive. My thought when we got these as day-old chicks was that we would start a breeding group of silkies. We had 2 silky roosters. We ended up with 4 hens out of the 6 chicks that we purchased. And unfortunately, those roosters ended up being aggressive, so they could no longer live here anymore because every time a kid came in to take care of these animals, the roosters would come and try to attack them. Which is pretty rare, actually, at least in my experience. I've had chickens for quite a few years at this point, and I can count on one hand the number of roosters that I've had that have been aggressive. But ironically, the two that actually mattered to our FFA chapter ended up being aggressive. So I may end up donating one of my roosters to start creating crossbreeds so that these eggs will also be fertile, and then we can use them in the incubators in addition to whatever eggs I need to bring in to fill these incubators. Are we running it like last year? Probably not, because that was incredibly intense, and the only reason that we sat in that many classrooms was to support the grant that we had received. There have been a few teachers that have reached out to me. Most of them lower level teachers. Were all in one building technically. So the ag program is actually able to provide support to the elementary teachers and provide that exposure to the students, which is huge when it comes to program support and recruitment and getting people on board with supporting your ag program or FFA chapter. Now, I did literally just watch that hen lay that egg, so I know for a fact that that's the color that she lays because I saw her lay it and the bloom dried. Unfortunately, by the time I started recording a video, the bloom had already dried, but maybe I'll catch it another time. This is the color of the cream leg bars egg. So you can see that it is this beautiful blue color. And let me compare to the olive egg. Here you can see a perfect example of what all three of those standard sized hens lay. This is the one that I just collected. This is the cream leg bars egg. And this one is the production red crossed with the cream leg bar. So it's not quite as dark as that Moran's cross, but it is still an olive color. It does have some speckles on it. And the silky eggs are pretty much useless, but we still are able to sell them through our weekly FFA egg subscription fundraiser that we run. So we sell obviously dozens for the standard size egg, and the silkies we sell in 18 count cartons for the same price. Now, because we only have a handful of hens, we can't fulfill all of our egg orders with the chickens that are here. So our students that have chickens at home that may not have a steady demand for eggs, although now we are in a different economic time when it comes to keeping chickens and having eggs for sale. But we started this when I began here in 2019. This is a program that I brought with me from my previous place of employment. When I started here, I felt that this would be a very good idea to get more publicity to our FFA chapter. It also would help those students that had chickens at home, but no way to sell those eggs or not having a stable market. One other project that we do is quail, and that will be a story for another day, but the quail are probably my favorite project to incorporate in class because their life cycle is so quick that the students really get to see it firsthand, hatch from little tiny egg, grow over the course of 6 weeks, then they start laying, and then the cycle can start all over again. We also sell the quail eggs in our egg subscription fundraiser. So if you have questions about any of that, feel free to comment. If you did find educational value to this post, feel free to interact with it, reshare with whomever you think would find this interesting. And if you have questions about other things that we do in our FFA chapter / ag program, feel free to comment and maybe I'll post a reply video.